The woman identified her dead husband at the morgue, and minutes later, a stranger burst into the room with a shocking revelation. Maria was about to face the worst nightmare of her life upon discovering that her husband had died unexpectedly. But everything changes when an unknown woman appears with a shocking revelation. In a story full of twists and mysteries, Maria needs to piece together a hidden truth and face unexpected enemies. It was a cold winter afternoon when the devastating news arrived. Maria, a middle-aged woman, was sitting in her office, surrounded by piles of papers, when her phone rang. The voice on the other end was cold and impersonal, informing her that her husband, John, had been found dead. He was young, full of life and ambitions, and his sudden departure left Maria in a state of shock and disbelief. John was the center of Maria's universe. They met in college, where he studied engineering and she studied literature. The connection between them was immediate, and love blossomed quickly. Together, they built a solid life full of happy moments and shared dreams. But now everything seemed to be falling apart. Shaken, Maria drove like a madwoman to the morgue. Traffic seemed a blur, and every second felt like an eternity. She needed to see John, needed to believe that it was all a terrible mistake. When she finally arrived, her hands were trembling as she parked the car. The cold wind cut through her skin as she walked, but the internal pain was much deeper. Inside the morgue, the atmosphere was gloomy and silent. Maria was greeted by a tired-looking attendant, who led her to a small, cold room. There, on a metal table, was John's body, covered by a white sheet. Her steps echoed down the corridor, each sound amplifying the terrible reality she was about to face. Maria approached slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. When the attendant lifted the sheet, she saw John's pale face. The pain hit her like a punch in the stomach. She fell to her knees beside the body, holding his hand and whispering through tears, "This can't be true. You can't be dead, John." Sadness and denial consumed Maria. She refused to accept her husband's death and insisted that he didn't need an autopsy. "He's fine," she repeated desperately. "There's no need for it." The attendant, moved by her pain, tried to console her, but Maria was determined. She wanted to take John's body home as soon as possible. At that moment, a desperate idea popped into her mind. With trembling hands, she opened her purse and pulled out a thick envelope. "Please," she said to the attendant, "release John's body without an autopsy. I'll pay whatever is necessary." The attendant hesitated for a moment, but the pain in Maria's eyes and the weight of the envelope she handed him convinced him. He nodded, taking the envelope and stepping away to make the necessary arrangements. Maria felt a brief wave of relief. Soon, she could take John home, away from that cold, impersonal place. But before she could process any thoughts, the room's door abruptly opened. A figure quickly entered, bringing with it a gust of cold air. It was a worn-out-looking woman, her clothes old and dirty, and her eyes full of desperate intensity. "Wait!" the woman shouted, interrupting the entire process. "This man is not dead. He's my husband, and he was poisoned. He's still alive." The woman's words echoed through the room, freezing Maria and the attendants in place. Chaos and confusion took over the morgue as everyone tried to understand what was happening. Maria, still kneeling beside John's body, looked incredulously at the homeless woman who had burst into the room. The woman, panting and wide-eyed, seemed genuinely convinced that John was alive. The attendants, confused and unsure, looked to Maria for guidance. "You're crazy," Maria murmured, her voice full of despair. "This is my husband, John. He's dead. He can't be alive." The homeless woman, however, was undeterred. "He's my husband, Adam," she insisted, her voice firm. "I know it seems impossible, but he was poisoned. He's still alive. I feel it." The attendant, realizing the gravity of the situation, suggested running some basic tests to check for any signs of life. Maria, though skeptical, reluctantly agreed. She had no more strength to fight. The pain of losing John was overwhelming, but the possibility, however small, that he might still be alive was something she couldn't ignore. The following minutes were tense. The attendants performed the tests, checking John's vital signs. The atmosphere was charged with expectation and fear. Maria watched every movement, every gesture, her heart beating uncontrollably. Suddenly, one of the attendants gasped. "Wait," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. I think I found a weak pulse." Maria felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. She quickly stood up, approaching John's body. "What?" she exclaimed, hope starting to bloom in her heart. "Are you saying he's alive?" The attendant nodded, his expression incredulous. "Yes, it's very weak, but it's there. We need to get him to the hospital immediately." The homeless woman, now with tears in her eyes, knelt beside John, holding his hand. "I knew," she whispered, her words full of emotion. "I knew you were still here, Adam." Confusion overwhelmed Maria. Who was this woman? And why was she calling John Adam? Nothing made sense. But at that moment, the only thing that mattered was saving her husband's life. The hours that followed were a whirlwind of emotions for Maria and the homeless woman, who finally introduced herself as Lisa. They spent the night in the hospital waiting room, sitting on uncomfortable chairs, their eyes fixed on the emergency room door. Curiosity and renewed hope mingled with tension and anxiety as they awaited news about John's, or Adam's, condition. The next morning, the lead doctor returned with a more relaxed expression. "He's stable," he announced. "There's still much work to be done, but his chances of recovery have significantly increased." Maria felt a wave of relief wash over her body. Tears welled up in her eyes as she whispered a silent thank you. Lisa, beside her, looked equally relieved, although her expression also revealed an unwavering determination. "Now, we need to address some identity issues," the doctor continued. "There are many unanswered questions. We need to determine who he really is so we can inform his family and take appropriate legal measures." Maria and Lisa exchanged glances. "Can we see him?" Maria asked, her voice laden with emotion. The doctor nodded. "Yes, but only one at a time. And keep the visit brief. He's still very weak." Maria was the first to enter. Seeing John lying in the bed, pale and vulnerable, she felt a tightness in her heart. She approached slowly, holding his hand. "John, I'm here," she whispered, trying to hold back the tears. "You're going to be okay. We'll get through this together." After a few minutes, it was Lisa's turn. She entered the room with hesitant but determined steps. She approached Adam and held his hand. "Adam," she whispered, "I knew you were alive. I promise we'll uncover the truth and save you." Meanwhile, outside, Maria reflected on everything Lisa had told her. It was hard to believe the story of separation and poisoning, but something in Lisa's determination made her question everything she thought she knew about John. That afternoon, a detective arrived at the hospital to start an investigation. He introduced himself as Detective Harris and asked to speak with Maria and Lisa separately. Maria went first. "Mrs. Maria, I need to understand the situation better," said the detective, opening a notebook. "How long have you known your husband?" "Over 10 years, Maria replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "We met in college and have been married for 8 years. Have you ever heard of any other identity or past of his?" Harris asked, looking directly into her eyes. "No," said Maria, shaking her head. "To me, he was always John. There was never any indication of another life." Harris made some notes before asking to speak with Lisa. When Lisa entered the room, the detective greeted her with a nod. "Mrs. Lisa, can you tell me your version of events?" he asked. Lisa took a deep breath before starting. "Adam and I were married for 7 years, but 5 years ago I was poisoned and lost my memory. I spent that time on the streets, trying to remember who I was. Recently, my memories returned and I started looking for Adam. It was then that I discovered he had disappeared. When I heard that a man matching his description had been found dead, I rushed to the morgue." Harris listened intently, noting every detail. "Do you have any proof of your marriage to Adam?" he asked. Lisa pulled a crumpled photo from her pocket. It was a wedding photo, showing her and Adam happy, dressed for the ceremony. Harris looked at the photo for a long moment before nodding. "This is very helpful," he said. We'll need more evidence to confirm his identity, but this is a good start. As the detective continued his investigation, Maria and Lisa tried to cope with their conflicting emotions. Lisa's presence brought up many questions and uncertainties for Maria, who couldn't shake the growing doubt in her heart. Was it possible that John had a secret life? That he was really Adam, Lisa's lost husband? Days passed in John's, or Adam's, health continued to improve. A DNA test was conducted to determine his identity, and the wait for the results was agonizing for both women. Finally, Detective Harris gathered Maria and Lisa to reveal the results. The DNA test confirmed that the man known as John is, in fact, Adam, Harris announced, his voice firm and clear. Maria felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. Lisa began to cry, her tears a mixture of joy and sadness. "I knew," she whispered. "I knew it was him." The revelation left Maria devastated. The man she loved, whom she believed she knew so well, was actually someone else. The implications of this discovery were immense and hard to process. The hospital atmosphere was charged with palpable tension after the revelation of John's true identity, or rather, Adam. Maria, still stunned by the news, felt like she was living a nightmare. She slowly backed away, trying to process everything she had just discovered. Lisa, on the other hand, was immersed in a mix of joy and sadness, struggling to believe that she had finally found her lost husband. In the following days, things got even more complicated. Maria found herself in an emotional dilemma. Despite the revealed truth, her love for John or Adam had not disappeared. She spent hours by his side in the hospital, holding his hand, waiting for him to wake up and explain everything. Finally, after days of waiting, Adam opened his eyes. His gaze was confused and weak, but when he saw Maria beside him, he tried to smile. "Maria," his voice was just a whisper. "I'm here," she replied, squeezing his hand. "I'm here, John, or Adam, I don't know anymore." He blinked slowly, trying to understand the situation. "I remember you and something else," he said, the confusion evident in his voice. "Maria, I never wanted to hurt you." Before he could continue, Lisa entered the room. Seeing Adam awake, her eyes filled with tears. "Adam, it's me, Lisa. Do you remember me?" Adam looked at Lisa, his expression changing to a mix of recognition and pain. "Lisa, how? It's a long story," Lisa replied, holding his other hand. "But the important thing is that you're alive. We'll get through this together." The presence of both women beside Adam created an intense emotional tension. He seemed torn between two lives, two women he loved in different ways. Maria, unable to bear it any longer, stood up and left the room, leaving Lisa and Adam alone. As she walked down the corridor, tears began to stream down Maria's face. She found a bench in the hospital garden and sat down, feeling the weight of reality crushing her. The pain and confusion were unbearable. How could she go on after discovering that the man she loved had an entire life she didn't know about? Meanwhile, Lisa and Adam tried to make up for lost time. Adam was beginning to remember pieces of his past with Lisa, although there were still many gaps in his memory. "Lisa, I'm so sorry for everything," he said, his voice full of regret. "I never wanted to abandon you." Lisa smiled through her tears. "It's not your fault, Adam. The important thing is that we're together now. We'll figure out how to move forward." However, the reunion was not so simple. Lisa still had to deal with the fact that Adam had built a new life with Maria. And Maria, in turn, had to decide what to do with the love she still felt for John. Days passed and Adam began to recover. During one of her visits, Maria found the courage to confront Adam. "Why didn't you ever tell me about your past?" she asked, her voice trembling with emotion. Adam sighed, closing his eyes for a moment. "Maria, I didn't know. After the poisoning, I lost my memory. When I started my new life as John, I had no idea who I was. When the memories started to come back, it was too late. I was afraid of losing you. But now I've lost you anyway," said Maria, tears streaming down her face. "I loved you, John. And now I don't know who you are anymore." Adam held her hand, looking deeply into her eyes. "I'm still the man you knew and loved, and I still love you. I just need to understand who I am, and you need to do the same." As Adam and Maria tried to find common ground, Lisa faced her own dilemmas. She knew that Adam loved Maria and that her presence was causing pain to everyone. Despite her happiness at finding Adam, she couldn't ignore the complexity of the situation. It was then that a new revelation came to light. During a routine checkup, a different doctor reviewed Adam's tests and found something that no one had noticed before. "There is a residue of a toxic substance in his system," said the doctor, frowning. "Apparently, someone tried to poison him again." The news hit like a bombshell. Maria, Lisa, and Adam were shocked. "Does this mean that the person who tried to kill him before is still out there?" Maria asked, her voice full of fear. "Yes," replied the doctor. "And it's likely that this person is closer than we think." The revelation brought a new layer of tension and danger to the situation. Maria and Lisa realized that, to protect Adam and themselves, they would have to work together to find out who was behind the poisonings. With the new threat looming over them, Maria, Lisa, and Adam formed an unlikely alliance, determined to uncover who was behind the poisonings. The tension was palpable, but the urgency to protect Adam and solve the mystery prevailed over their personal differences. They began to investigate discreetly, revisiting Adam's past places and people. Lisa remembered an old friend of Adam's, a man named Robert, who might have valuable information. Robert, now living in a small apartment on the city's outskirts, was surprised to see Lisa and Adam together. "Adam? Lisa? What's going on?" Robert asked, confused. Adam explained the situation, and Robert agreed to help. "I remember some strange things happening before you disappeared, Adam," said Robert. "There was someone who seemed obsessed with you and Lisa, a man named Victor." Victor was a former colleague of Adam's who had an unhealthy obsession with Lisa. He always watched her from afar, and his bizarre behavior had worried Adam in the past. However, Victor mysteriously disappeared shortly before Adam was poisoned. "We need to find Victor," said Lisa, determination in her voice. "He might be behind all of this." Maria, despite still dealing with her own emotions, agreed. "If he tried to poison Adam once, he might try again. We need to act fast." The search for Victor began. They visited his old workplaces, talked to neighbors and friends, but no one knew Victor's whereabouts. Frustration grew, and the sense of imminent danger was increasingly intense. Meanwhile, Adam began to recover more of his memories. He remembered happy moments with Lisa, but also dark episodes involving Victor. One night, while alone in his hospital room, Adam had a vivid memory. He saw Victor approaching him, with a malicious look, holding a bottle of liquid. Adam tried to resist, but the substance left him weak and vulnerable. The next day, Adam shared the memory with Maria and Lisa. "It was Victor," he said, his voice trembling. "He tried to kill me, and he's probably trying again." With this new information, they intensified the search. Finally, after days of relentless investigation, they received a tip. Victor had been seen in a neighboring town, living under a false name. Without wasting time, they drove there, determined to confront him and end the threat once and for all. Upon arriving in the small town, they located Victor's house. It was an old, worn-down building, reflecting the disturbed mind of its occupant. Maria, Lisa, and Adam approached cautiously, their hearts pounding. They knocked on the door, and a man opened it. It was Victor, now with an even more disturbing appearance than Adam remembered. His eyes widened upon seeing Adam, alive and well. "Adam? How is this possible?" he stammered. "Yes, Victor, I'm alive," said Adam firmly. "And now it's your turn to answer for your crimes." Victor tried to flee but was quickly immobilized by Robert, who had joined the group. The police were called, and Victor was arrested, confessing his crimes in a fit of madness. He had poisoned Adam out of jealousy and anger, and upon discovering that Adam was still alive, he tried to finish what he had started. With Victor arrested, the sense of danger diminished. Maria, Lisa, and Adam could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Gratitude and love grew among them, despite the adverse circumstances that had brought them together. But the story didn't end there. Adam, now free from Victor's threat, had to face the realities of his two lives. He loved Lisa, with whom he shared a past, but also had a deep bond with Maria, built over years of shared life. "I feel I owe both of you an apology," said Adam, looking at Maria and Lisa. "I never wanted to hurt either of you. The situation is complex, and we need to find a way to move forward together." Maria, with a heavy heart, knew that the decision wouldn't be easy. "John, Adam," she began, her voice trembling. "I always loved you and always will. But maybe it's time for each of us to find our own path." Lisa nodded, understanding the depth of Maria's feelings. "We've all been through so much. What matters now is that Adam is safe. We need to give ourselves time to heal and figure out what we really want." Adam, with tears in his eyes, agreed. "You two are incredible. Let's take it one step at a time and see where it leads us." With this resolution, Adam, Maria, and Lisa decided to move forward, supporting each other as they rebuilt their lives. The threat had passed, but the emotional scars would take time to heal. However, there was new hope on the horizon, a possibility of a fresh start and finding a new path. The following months were a period of great change and adaptation for Maria, Lisa, and Adam. After everything they had been through, each of them needed to find a new meaning in their lives and, most importantly, find a path to inner peace. Adam, now fully recovered, decided it was time to confront his past and face the consequences of his two lives. He knew he couldn't continue living a life divided between two women he deeply loved. He decided to start at the beginning, talking to Lisa and Maria separately. Maria was the first. Sitting in the living room of her house, Adam held her hands, his eyes reflecting the pain and confusion he felt. "Maria, I never wanted to hurt you," he said, his voice laden with sincerity. "I love you, but I understand if you want to move on without me." Maria, with tears in her eyes, smiled sadly. "John or Adam, I know you didn't mean to, and I love you too, but maybe it's time for us to go our separate ways. You need to discover who you really are, and I need to find my own peace." They hugged, a long embrace full of unspoken emotions. Maria knew she was making the right decision, even if it broke her heart. Next, it was Lisa's turn. They met at a cafe, a quiet place where they could talk without interruptions. "Lisa, we've been through so much," Adam began. "I still have memories of us, but I also have memories of my life with Maria. I don't know how to reconcile the two." Lisa looked at him, her eyes reflecting a wisdom gained through years of pain and survival. "Adam, we both need time. Time to understand everything that happened and to discover what we really want. I will always love you, but we need to be honest with ourselves." They agreed to take a step back, allowing time to heal their wounds and clear their minds. Adam decided he would spend some time alone, reflecting on his life and choices. Meanwhile, Maria found solace in her family and friends. She resumed her career, immersing herself in work to distract from the pain. Over time, she began to rediscover who she was beyond being John's wife. She found new hobbies, made new friends, and slowly felt the pain lessen. Lisa also started a new chapter in her life. She dedicated herself to helping other homeless people, finding purpose in her own life experience. Opening a shelter for homeless women became her main goal, and over time, she managed to turn that dream into reality. The shelter became a place of hope and recovery for many women, reflecting Lisa's journey. Months later, Adam returned to the city. He was more serene, with a semblance of peace he hadn't had before. He sought out Maria and Lisa, wanting to share his reflections and decisions. First, he visited Maria. "Maria, I found a sense of purpose in my life that I had been searching for a long time. I want to thank you for everything you did for me. I will always love you, but I think it's time for us to go our separate ways. You deserve to be happy, and so do I." Maria smiled, a solitary tear rolling down her face. "Thank you, Adam. I wish you the best too. We will always have our memories, and that's something no one can take away from us." Then Adam met with Lisa at the shelter she had founded. "Lisa, I'm so proud of what you've accomplished here," he said, looking around the shelter. "You've turned your pain into something incredibly beautiful." Lisa smiled, her heart warmed by Adam's words. Thank you, Adam. I feel like I've finally found my purpose. And you? What did you decide to do? I'm going to travel, he replied. I want to explore the world, find new experiences, and understand more about myself. But before I go, I wanted to thank you for never giving up on me. They hugged, an embrace full of affection and respect. Adam knew he was leaving behind two incredible women, but he also knew he was doing the right thing for everyone. And so, Adam embarked on his journey, carrying with him the lessons and loves of his past. Maria continued her life, finding happiness and contentment in new experiences and relationships. Lisa, in turn, dedicated herself to the shelter, creating a legacy of compassion and strength for other women. Time passed, and the emotional scars began to heal. Each of them found a new beginning, a new meaning in their lives. And although the path had been difficult and painful, each of them emerged stronger and wiser. Maria, now stronger, rediscovered joy in the little things in life. She reconnected with her family, made new friends, and found new hobbies. Her work as a writer flourished, and she found a new purpose in her stories, many of which were inspired by her own experiences of overcoming adversity. Lisa, for her part, turned her shelter into a true refuge for homeless women. Her own story of survival and recovery inspired other women not to give up. She became a figure of leadership and hope in the community, dedicating her life to helping others find their way back to dignity and self-respect. Adam, in his travels, found the peace he had long sought. He explored the world, learned about new cultures, and, most importantly, got to know himself. His travels not only healed his emotional wounds, but also gave him a new perspective on life and love. He kept in touch with Maria and Lisa, and their lives remained intertwined by an invisible thread of respect and gratitude. One sunny afternoon, years later, Adam returned to the city to visit Maria and Lisa. They met in a park, the same one where it all began. Maria and Lisa were happy and fulfilled, each following their own path, but always maintaining a special bond. I just wanted to see you both and thank you again, said Adam, with a genuine smile. You helped me find who I really am, and for that I will be eternally grateful. Maria and Lisa smiled, their eyes full of emotion. We are grateful too, Adam, said Lisa. We've all been through so much, but we've emerged stronger and wiser. Maria added, and we'll always have each other, no matter where life takes us. They hugged, feeling the peace and joy that can only come from deep understanding and acceptance. The shadows of the past had been left behind, and before them, a bright future full of possibilities unfolded. Optimism and peace finally found space in their hearts, showing that, even after the most violent storms, the sun always shines again.